Hello, and welcome to the Irish Aesthete. Previously, I was talking about Arthur Edward Guinness, first and last Lord Ardiluan of Ashford, and his role in the creation of St Stephen's Green in Dublin as we know it today. In the late 1870s, Arthur Edward had personally paid for the landscaping of the park, hitherto rather plain, and seemingly at a cost to himself of £12,000. As a result, and by way of thanks, some years later the city authorities had erected a statue of Lord Ardiluan on the west side of St Stephen's Green, benignly looking across to the College of Surgeons. By this time he had become a very respectable old man, but his past wasn't without a hint of scandal, most notably from 1868, when he had first been elected to Parliament. The election was subsequently voided when his agent was discovered to be paying bribes, although the candidate himself was cleared of knowledge of this activity. A few years later, in February 1871, Arthur Edward had married Lady Olivia Hedges White, a daughter of the 3rd Earl of Bantry. Here she is, wearing the robes of a peeress for the coronation of Edward VII in 1903. This is about as close to an image of her smiling as I've been able to discover. One doesn't get the impression that Lady Ardilaun, for all her wealth and the pampering comforts around her life, ever seems to have had a great deal of fun. Seen here with the Dowager Lady Bantry, a visual representation of Ivor Novello's 1921 song And Her Mother Came Too, the Ardilauns had no children, and there's been much speculation about their union, with the idea floated that this was a mariage blanc and that Arthur Edward was homosexual. There's no actual evidence to support this proposal. There was no scandal involving Lord Ardiluan caught in the shrubbery with a guardsman, or revelations of the kind that we're all now reading in Chips Channon's unexpurgated diaries. In fact, if either Lord or Lady Ardilaun were guilty of anything, it was of resolute dullness. They seem to have been determinedly and unimaginatively respectable. Conservative in politics and in life, they never appear to have broken any rules or demonstrated any initiative in their behaviour. On the other hand, they were awfully rich, both coming from exceedingly wealthy families. 10 years younger than her husband, Lady Ardilaun was born in 1850 in Macroom Castle, County Cork. Originally a 15th century fortress built by the McCarthys, by the late 17th century it had passed into the hands of the Hedges heir family. When the last of these died in 1840, he left the property to Lady Olivia's father, who would eventually own almost 70,000 acres in County Cork. Macroom Castle itself would in turn be bequeathed to Olivia, but it was burnt during the Civil War by anti-treaty forces and has been a ruin ever since. Prior to her marriage, Lady Olivia's principal home had been the family's residence, the vast Bantry house, filled with treasures accumulated on his travels around Europe by her grandfather. And yes, there were once so many 18th century Aubusson and Beauvais tapestries that they even covered the ceilings of the main reception rooms. Another house with which Olivia would have been very familiar was Muckross in County Kerry, owned by her mother's family, the Herberts. The present Jacobean-style building, designed by Scottish architect William Byrne, dates from the early 1840s when it replaced a much older residence. Famously, the Herberts played host to Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, together with their young children, when the British royal family visited Kerry in August 1861. This occasion attracted enormous publicity and is often credited with helping to develop Kerry, and specifically the Lakes of Killarney, as a major tourist destination. Seemingly, the Herberts undertook lavish improvements to the house prior to the Queen's arrival, and their finances, already in poor shape, never recovered from this expenditure. As a result, at the end of the 19th century, they were forced to put the Muckross estate on the market. Lady Olivia, it seems, was devastated at the idea of her mother's home being owned by anyone else, so her husband bought it for her, the way kind husbands will do. Of course, the Ardilauns owned a number of residences of their own, and in the next episode I want to talk about one of these. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much for watching The Irish Aesthete. Goodbye.